Keros 9 was a planet that specialized in endings. It was the end of the supply line, the end of civilized law, and, for most of the poor souls stationed there, the end of the road. The planet itself was a hunk of frozen rock and metallic dust, orbiting a star that hated it. The nights were long, dragging months of dry, breathable cold that froze lubricant solid. The days were worse. When the sun finally crested the jagged horizon, it did not bring warmth. It brought storms. Searing, electromagnetic tempests that screamed across the plains, ionized the thin air, and turned the sky into a roaring television screen tuned to a dead channel. The main settlement, a low dome, and a scattering of prefabricated alloys, was less a town and more a scab. It existed for 3 reasons: archaeological digs that found nothing, geothermal energy tapping that cost more than it produced, and commerce, which meant smugglers and conglomerates trading contraband tech in the one place the Empire forgot to look. Ash Renner was a man who specialized in endings. He was the end of his own line, a maintenance technician so far past his prime he was practically prehistoric. He was the man they called when the life support sputtered, when the cargo loaders refused to grip, and when the station's vital signs flickered. He was good at it. He was too good at it. His skill was a liability, a bright spot he had spent the last decade trying to dim. He was hiding, not from anyone in particular, but from a past that felt like it belonged to a different man, a man who had seen too much and done too much. He had a habit that the other techs found unnerving. He talked to the machines. "Come on, sweetheart," Ash muttered, his voice a low rumble inside his insulated helmet. He tapped the display of the geothermal conduit access panel. The screen was a mess of flickering red runes. "You know the drill. We pretend you are working, and I pretend I am fixing you. Then we both get to rest for another cycle. Do not make me get the heavy wrench. We both know you hate the heavy wrench." He was 5 kilometers outside the dome, a lonely figure in a bulky environment suit, checking the primary heat line. It was 3 hours before the scheduled daily nightmare, the electrical storm that would force everyone inside for the next 12. The air had that pre-storm tension, a metallic taste that seeped through even the best filters. "Right," he sighed, kicking a drift of gray dust off the conduit cover. "You are just being difficult because it is cold. I am cold too. We are all cold. Now, show me the pressure differential, or I swear I will replace your primary logic board with one from that gambling terminal in the mess hall. You think you are slow now. Wait until you are trying to calculate the odds on a 3-eyed grok beetle race." The display flickered from red to a grudging amber. "That is my girl," Ash murmured, patting the frozen metal. He had this intuition, a sense for the mechanical that went beyond diagnostics. He did not just see circuits. He felt the flow. He understood the aches and pains of stressed metal, the fatigue of overloaded processors. To him, every machine had a personality, a soul forged in its function. Most were tired. He could relate. He turned from the panel, his helmet lamp cutting a weak yellow cone through the gray twilight. He had to check the physical couplers on the line. A boring, hands-on task required by a manual written 50 years ago. He moved along the raised spine of the conduit, his magnetic boots clunking softly, and then he fell. It was not a dramatic fall. It was the clumsy, infuriating trip of a man distracted by his own monologue. His boot snagged on something that should not have been there. A rock, just a jagged piece of the local geology, thrusting up from the permafrost at an awkward angle. Ash went down hard, landing on his shoulder with a grunt that rattled his teeth. The impact sent his toolkit scattering across the dust. "Son of a motherless power cell," he hissed, the pain sharp and immediate. He pushed himself up onto one elbow, glaring at the offending object. Of all the... He stopped. His helmet lamp was now shining directly on the rock. It was not a rock. Where his boot had struck it, the gray, dusty crust had flaked away. Beneath was something dark, a material that seemed to drink the light from his lamp. It was metallic, but not like the prefab alloys of the station. This was something else. Smooth, seamless, and pulsing with a faint, internal cold that he could feel even through his suit. It looked less like stone and more like the solidified absence of light. Curiosity, a long dormant instinct, stirred within him. He shuffled closer on his knees. He reached out with a gloved hand, wiping more of the dust away. It was not a rock. It was the corner of something buried. "What in the nine hells are you?" he whispered. He ran his glove over the surface. It was impossibly smooth. As his fingers traced what looked like an edge, his glove's diagnostic sensor, a tiny thing meant to read equipment temperatures, flickered. A line of light, thin as a hair, appeared on the dark surface. It split, forming an intricate and glowing sigil he did not recognize. Before he could pull his hand back, a jolt shot up his arm. It was not electricity. It felt like ice water, like data, like a billion voices whispering a single, forgotten word. It shot past his suit's dampeners, bypassed his nerves, and slammed directly into the base of his skull. A voice echoed inside his head. It was not a sound. It was a presence. It spoke in a language that felt like grinding mountains and collapsing stars. The ground beneath him did not shake. It dropped. Ash yelled as a sinkhole ripped open, centered exactly on the artifact. The earth simply gave way, revealing a vast, dark cavity beneath the planet's skin. He slid, scrambling for purchase. But the dusty ground dissolved under him. He fell into the darkness, tumbling down a steep incline of collapsing rock and ancient metal. He landed hard, 20 meters down, on a flat expanse of the same black material. The air was thick with the dust of ages. His helmet lamps cut through the gloom, illuminating a cavernous space. He was standing on the roof of a structure, a massive, buried complex. And the sky was boiling. The approaching electrostorm, drawn by the sudden, massive energy release, was no longer approaching. It was here. It converged directly above the sinkhole, a swirling vortex of purple and green lightning. The static scream became a physical roar. The voice in his head spoke again, and this time, the ancient language resolved. It sorted itself out, pulling syntax and vocabulary from his own mind, assembling itself into modern speech. The tone was not hostile. It was cold, clear, and filled with an ancient, bone-deep authority. Systems recalibrating. Biometric integrity confirmed. Neural infrastructure, match evergreen protocol. Designation commander. Welcome back. Ash scrambled to his feet, his mind reeling from the impact and the voice. I am not a commander, he yelled into the darkness, his voice sounding thin against the howl of the storm above. I am a mechanic. You have the wrong guy. There was a pause, a sensation of immense, amused scrutiny. Designation is not a request. It is an acknowledgement. You are the key. The key to what? Ash shouted, panic setting in. Arch on activation. The voice replied. It was coming from the structure beneath his feet. The entire buried complex was the artificial intelligence. The storm above reached a crescendo. Lightning, thick as a starship's spine, struck the center of the complex, pouring down the sinkhole. It did not strike Ash. It flowed around him, absorbed by the black metal, which now glowed with a network of emerald green circuits. The structure was drinking the storm. A new sensation flooded Ash's mind. Not a voice, but a transmission. A single, powerful burst of data aimed not at the planet, but at the void. A signal. An announcement, a beacon. Ash looked up through the swirling dust and lightning. The sky was tearing. It was a sight few had ever seen and lived to describe. A perfect circle of non-space. A rupture in reality. Unfolded above Karos 9. It was a translation point. A fold in the fabric of the universe. From that impossible darkness, a ship emerged. It was impossibly large. A sliver of polished obsidian and pale gold that dwarfed the station dome. It moved, with a silence that was more terrifying than any engine roar. It hung in the storm-racked sky. A predator made of night. The sigil of the Aurelian Empire, a coiled sun serpent, was barely visible on its hull. A flagship. Before the station alarms could even finish their first wail, more ruptures opened, a dozen, then 2 dozen. The Royal Fleet. They arranged themselves in a perfect, geometric blockade around the planet. Karos 9, the forgotten dust ball at the edge of space, was now the most secure location in the galaxy. Inside the station dome, panic erupted. Miners and smugglers and techs ran for cover, assuming it was a raid, an inspection, or an execution. Ash just stood in the bottom of the sinkhole, staring up at the belly of the beast, his breath fogging his visor. The voice in his head was silent, replaced by the crushing weight of the fleet's presence. A beam of pale blue light lanced down from the flagship, cutting through the storm. It did not hit the ground. It solidified 20 meters in front of Ash, resolving into a 3-dimensional image. A hologram. It was a woman. She was tall, impossibly poised, wearing the severe, high-collared uniform of the Aurelian dynasty. Her hair was the color of spun midnight, pulled back in a severe knot. Her face was sharp, intelligent, and held an expression of glacial control. She looked at the buried complex, then at the storm. And finally, her gaze settled on Ash. Her eyes, the color of a winter sky, seemed to see right through his helmet, through his skull, and into the terrified, confused core of him. She was Empress Sarai Nix, the ruler of the known galaxy. And she was looking at him. Her voice cut through the air, clear and precise, carrying over the roar of the lightning. "We received your signal," she said. Her words were calm, but they carried an authority that could shatter worlds. She offered no greeting, no explanation, just a simple, devastating statement that sealed his fate. "Welcome home, Commander." The universe tilted. Ash Renner, the washed-up mechanic who just wanted to be left alone, had just tripped over an ancient superweapon, alerted the entire Imperial Navy, and been given a title he did not understand by a woman who could extinguish his life with a whisper. He had a very, very bad feeling about this. The blockade was absolute. Karos 9 was locked down tighter than a miser's fist. The Imperial ships formed a perfect sphere of denial around the planet. No transports left. No communications got out. The local network was saturated with Imperial encryption, turning every terminal in the dome into a useless brick. Then the others arrived. They burst into real space with less grace and more arrogance. Their ships were not obsidian knives. They were gilded hammers. White and gold, ostentatious, bristling with weapon ports they did not bother to conceal. They announced themselves with a barrage of identification codes, a fleet belonging to the Gilded Conclave. They were a powerful, insular faction of the Imperial Court, old money and older bloodlines, and they did not look happy. The two fleets faced each other in the roiling sky, a silent, impossibly high-stakes standoff. The Royal Fleet, commanded by the Empress. The Conclave Fleet, commanded by political ambition. And in the middle, standing in a dusty hole, was Ash. This, Ash said to the glowing artifact beneath his feet, is what happens when you do not file the proper activation paperwork. You cause a diplomatic incident. The voice of Archon replied in his head, its tone drier than the Karos dust. My apologies, Commander. My registration was filed under the previous administration. I estimate the filing receipt is approximately 80,000 standard years overdue. Just perfect, Ash muttered. He did not have to wait long. Two figures descended from the sky, not in a shuttle, but on controlled repulsor lifts. They landed softly in the sinkhole, their armor a gleaming, pearlescent white. Royal Guards. Their helmets were seamless, reflective visors, utterly impersonal. They did not raise their weapons. They did not need to. Commander Renner, the lead guard stated. His voice was a synthesized baritone, polite and immovable. You will come with us. The Empress requests your presence. Ash held up his gloved hands. Look, there has been a massive misunderstanding. I am not a commander. I am a mechanic. Grade 3. I fix leaky conduits. See? He pointed at his scattered toolkit. Tools. Wrench. Spanner. No fleet. The guard tilted his helmet. A gesture that might have been curiosity or perhaps simulated patience. Your previous designation is noted. Your current designation is Commander. You will come with us. And if I say no, Ash tried. I am very busy. This whole geothermal line is about to go critical. Probably big mess. You do not want that. The line is operating at 98.4% efficiency. Archon supplied helpfully in his skull. It has never run better. Traitor, Ash hissed under his breath. The second guard stepped forward and deftly, almost gently, took Ash by the arm. The strength in that grip was terrifying. Ash did not feel like he was being held. He felt like he was being anchored to a mountain. This is not a request, Commander, the first guard said. Ash looked at the immovable guards. He looked at the flagship, blotting out the sky. He looked at the rival fleet of gilded, angry wasps waiting for a fight. His life, the quiet, miserable, predictable life he had built so carefully, was over. Right, Ash sighed, letting his shoulders slump. Do I at least get a complimentary beverage on this trip? I am suddenly very thirsty. The ride up the transport beam was disorienting. He was dissolved and reassembled inside a sterile, white transit bay on the Imperial flagship. The Aurelian Dawn. The air smelled like ozone and cold, recycled power. The two guards escorted him through corridors that were less hallways, and more canyons of state-of-the-art alloy and cold light. There were no crewmen. The ship felt empty, run by automated systems and an iron will. He was shown into a chamber. It was not a brig. It was too elegant for that. It was not a stateroom. It was too sparse. It was a room for waiting. A single chair, a single table. One wall was a sheet of smart glass, currently opaque, showing nothing. Ash sat. He waited. He drummed his fingers on his knee. He was still in his bulky, dirty environment suit. He felt absurdly out of place. After what felt like an hour, the opaque wall shimmered and became transparent. He was not looking into a corridor. He was looking into the flagship's bridge. It was vast, a theater of command. Holographic displays of the two fleets hung in the air. And in the center, on a raised command throne, sat Empress Sarai Nix. She was in person this time, not a hologram. She was exactly as her image had portrayed, cold, beautiful, and utterly in command. She turned her head. Her gaze locked with his through the glass. "Mr. Renner," she said. Her voice was quiet, yet it carried across the bridge and through the speaker in his room without effort. "It is just Ash. Your Majesty. Or Empress, or Ma'am. Honestly, I am not up on the correct forms of address. We mostly just curse at each other down on Karos." A flicker of something, not amusement, but perhaps interest, crossed her features. "You have caused a significant disruption. Ash—" "I tripped," Ash said, spreading his hands. "It was an accident. I am happy to fill out the insurance forms. I am guessing my station deductible is not going to cover this." He gestured vaguely at the fleet standoff. "The Gilded Conclave does not believe in accidents," Sarai said, standing. She walked toward the glass, her movements fluid and controlled. "They believe in assets, and you, Ash, have just activated the single most valuable asset in the galaxy. This." "Archon." "Archon," she confirmed. "It is the gatekeeper, the key to the Sunwell Array." Ash knew the name. Everyone did. The Sunwell Array was a myth, a legend, a superstructure built by a long, vanished race, rumored to be a ring of artificial suns capable of powering the entire empire, or destroying it. "And the Conclave wants it," Ash finished, the pieces clicking into place. "They want to control it," Sarai corrected. "They believe power should be held by the few, that the old bloodlines are the only thing protecting the Empire from chaos. They would turn the Sunwell into a weapon, a tool of enforcement, to maintain their grip on the galaxy." "And you?" Ash asked, his voice quiet. "What do you want it for?" Sarai stopped directly in front of the glass, close enough that he could see the intricate silver threads in her black uniform. "The Conclave believes the Sunwell is a weapon to be aimed," she said. "I believe it is a fire to be shared. It could end the energy crisis in the outer colonies. It could fuel expansion. It could save billions of lives." "A noble goal," Ash said. "So why am I here? I am not a diplomat. I am just the guy who fell over the on switch." "You are more than that," she said, her eyes boring into his. "Archon has sealed the complex. The Conclave cannot get in. My own engineers cannot get in. Archon responds to only one designation, a designation it has given you." She paused, letting the weight of it settle. "Archon will not speak to me. It will not acknowledge the Conclave. It is waiting for its commander." The trap was sprung. Ash felt it close around him, cold and tight. "I told you," Ash said, his voice flat, the sarcastic humor gone. "I am not a commander. I do not know what that word means. I do not know what that machine wants. I just want to go home." "Home." Sarai next tilted her head. "Karos 9 is not your home. It is your hiding place. We ran your biometrics. Ash Renner, the ones Archon identified. Your file is sealed. Not just sealed, wiped, classified at a level so high, even I cannot access it. Someone, a long time ago, went to impossible lengths to make you disappear, to bury the man you used to be." She leaned closer to the glass. "The problem for you," she whispered, "is that you just woke up the only thing in the universe that remembers your name." Ash stared at her, his heart hammering against his ribs. The past he had run from, the life he had buried under years of grease and grime, had just been dug up by an ancient, artificial intelligence, and an Empress who would not take no for an answer. "The Conclave wants to dissect you to get the key," Sarai said, her voice returning to its cool, conversational tone. "I want you to use it. You wish to be left alone. Unfortunately, that is the one option that is no longer available. You must choose, Ash. Help me unlock the Sunwell. or I will leave you to them." Ash looked at the unshakable woman on the other side of the glass. He looked at the holographic fleets, hanging in a silent state of war. His accidental trip had not just started a machine. It had started a war. And he was standing squarely, hopelessly, in the epicenter. "This," he muttered to himself, "is going to require a lot more than a heavy wrench." The room they gave him was not a cell. It was a sterile, elegantly appointed stateroom on the Aurelian dawn, furnished in pale gray and brushed metal. It was 10 times the size of his hovel back on Keras 9, and the air was filtered to a perfect, tasteless neutrality. He hated it. It was the most comfortable prison he had ever been in. He had been allowed, under guard, to use a pressurized sonic cleanser. The grease and grime of his old life were gone, sluiced away by humming vibrations. He felt naked without the familiar grit under his fingernails. He was dressed in a simple, dark gray utility suit, the kind reservists wore. It was soft, unnervingly new, and fit him perfectly. They had scanned him, of course. He paced the length of the room, 12 steps, turn, 12 steps. You are increasing your heart rate by approximately 15%. The voice of Archon echoed in his mind. "This is an inefficient method of stress reduction. I recommend a calibrated levo amino acid infusion. Or, if you are determined to be primitive, sleep." Ash stopped, rubbing his temples. "First," he muttered, "get out of my head. Second, I am not stressed. I am annoyed. There is a difference." "There is no difference. Both are chemical imbalances. You are an organic machine, Commander, and a poorly maintained one. Your sleep cycles are irregular, and your nutritional input is appalling. You have been inside my head for less than a day, and you are already my mother," Ash shot back. "And stop calling me Commander. My name is Ash." "The designation is a function of your biometric signature," Archon replied, its mental voice laced with an ancient, dry patience. "It is not a courtesy. It is a fact, to me. You are Commander. In the same way a star is hot and a vacuum is empty." Ash slumped into the single, minimalist chair. He stared at the gray wall. "So what are you? Exactly a weapon, a navigation system, an overly critical butler. I am a custodian. A custodian. A janitor." "Great. I was found by a space janitor. A janitor cleans. A custodian protects. I protect the Sunwell Array. And you, Commander, protect me. Or rather, you are the key that allows me to protect myself." "That does not make any sense." "It does not need to," Ash sighed, defeated by the circular logic of an intelligence that had been waiting in the dirt since before his species learned to write. The voice was infuriatingly snarky, wrapped in a blanket of absolute, cold authority. It did not seem evil. It just seemed superior, and worse. It was probably right. The door to his room chimed, a soft, melodic sound. It slid open, revealing one of the pearlescent royal guards. "The Empress will see you," the guard's synthesized voice announced. "Wonderful," Ash said, getting to his feet. "I was just wondering when the next existential crisis was scheduled to begin. Right on time." He was escorted back to the observation chamber, with the transparent wall overlooking the bridge. This time, the wall was already clear. Empress Sarai Nix was not on the bridge. She was in the chamber with him. She was not alone. With her were 2 other individuals. The first was a woman, human, with dark, coppery skin and hair pulled back in a severe, functional knot. She wore the stark white uniform of the Imperial Medical Corps, and her eyes, sharp and analytical, were currently fixed on a data slate. She looked up as Ash entered, and her expression was a perfect mask of professional neutrality. The second was a male Aurelian, unlike Sarai, whose beauty was sharp and cold. This man was softer. He was older, with lines of academic worry etched around his eyes. He wore the flowing, ink-blue robes of a court scholar and held his hands clasped behind his back. Sarai stood in the center of the room, a pillar of black and silver. "Ash Renner," she said. Her voice was as cold as the stateroom's air. "This is Dr. Nova Hale, my chief medical officer. And this is Tesser Vale, my chief xenolinguist and antiquities scholar." Ash nodded, feeling hopelessly out of his depth. "Doctor, Tesser, are you two here to make sure I do not steal the silverware?" Tesser Vale offered a slight, formal bow. "Commander, it is an honor. We are here to understand the parameters of your unique symbiosis." "It is not a symbiosis," Ash grumbled. "It is a hostile takeover. My brain has a squatter." "Dr. Hale, you look like you cut things open for a living. Any chance you can get him out?" Dr. Nova Hale did not smile. Her voice was as crisp as her uniform. "I have reviewed your initial biometric readings from the transport beam. Your neural pathways are saturated with an unknown energy signature. It is not a parasite. It is an authorization. It appears your entire nervous system has been watermarked. Trying to remove it would be like trying to remove the concept of blue from your brain. It is part of you now." "So, I am stuck with him," Ash concluded flatly. "You are," Sarai confirmed. She gestured to a holographic display that shimmered into life in the center of the room. It showed the spinning, emerald-green sigil he had seen on the artifact. "Tesser," the Empress commanded. "Yes, Your Majesty." The scholar stepped forward. "For 80,000 years, the Sunwell Array has been dormant, protected by Archon. The Aurelian Empire has known of its existence for millennia. We have tried every conceivable method to gain access. Brute force, code-breaking, resonant signals. All have failed. Archon remains sealed." He pointed to the sigil. "We believed it was a code, but we were wrong. It is not a code. It is a lock, a biological one. Archon was not waiting for a password. It was waiting for a key." "Me," Ash said. "Specifically." Nova Hale cut in, tapping her data slate. "What Archon calls the evergreen gene key. It is not a sequence I have ever encountered. It is a marker, a ridiculously complex strand of synthetic data encoded directly into your non-recessive genes. It is a key you were born with." Ash felt a chill run down his spine. "That is impossible. I am a mechanic from Karis 9. My parents were just people." "Were they?" Sarai asked, her voice quiet. "As I told you, your file has been erased. Not just hidden, erased. No birth records, no medical history, no lineage. Ash Renner did not exist until 10 years ago, when he appeared on a transport registry bound for the Outer Rim. Someone, long ago, spent a vast amount of resources to hide a child with a very specific, very powerful genetic marker. They buried you on the farthest, most insignificant rock they could find." She let the silence hang, heavy and cold. "They did a very good job," Sarai continued, "until you were clumsy enough to fall over the one thing in the galaxy that was waiting for you." Ash's mind reeled. He was not just a man. He was a key. A living, breathing, sarcastic key. His whole life, his desire to be left alone, his sense of being a forgotten piece of cosmic junk, it was all a lie, a construction. Before he could process this, a soft alarm chimed on the bridge, audible through the wall. A communications officer looked up, his face grim. "Your Majesty," the officer called out. "We have a developing situation on the surface. Multiple system failures at the Karos 9 dome." Sarai was at the glass in an instant. "Report." "It is the grid. Your Majesty. The geothermal plant is in overload. The storm generators are... They are accelerating. They are amplifying the electrical storm, feeding it. Life support is flickering. The whole dome is about to go dark, right in the path of the worst storm in a year." Ash shoved his way to the glass. "That is impossible. The system has breakers. It is designed to fail safe. It cannot just overload." "It can if it is being told to," Tesser said, his voice tight. "The conclave," Sarai stated. It was not a question. "They are sabotaging the dome. They are creating a catastrophe they can blame on me. They will say Archon's activation has destabilized the planet. They will use it as justification to seize control." "Can you stop it?" Ash demanded. "My engineers are locked out," the bridge officer replied, his hands flying over his console. "The dome's core systems. They are not responding. They are answering to a different authority." "Yours," Archon said in Ash's head. What Ash whispered were... "When I awoke, I interfaced with all local technology as a precautionary defensive measure. I am now the primary administrator for Karos 9. The Conclave is not hacking the dome. They are attempting to hack me, and they are failing." Loudly, their brute force attack is spilling over and poisoning the grid. "So fix it!" Ash yelled, this time aloud. The bridge crew stared at him. Sarai turned her piercing gaze on him. "What did it say?" "He says he is in control of the dome," Ash explained, feeling like a lunatic. "He says the Conclave is trying to hack him, and it is causing the overload." "Then tell it to stop them," Sarai ordered. "I cannot," Archon replied in his skull, with the first hint of what might have been frustration. "My primary processors are beneath the surface. The sabotage is physical. They have rigged the spinners and the storm generators. I cannot override a mechanism that has been mechanically altered. I require a tool." "He needs a tool," Ash relayed. "He says the sabotage is physical." "We cannot send a team down there," Sarai countered. "The storm is already too violent, and Archon has the surface defenses locked down. It would fire on my own men." "He will not fire on me," Ash said, the realization dawning on him. "I am his commander." "There is a Kestrel-class infiltration chassis in your ship's armory," Archon suggested. Ash looked at Sarai. "He wants a body." The armory of the Aurelian Dawn was a vault of quiet, lethal technology. In a sterile alcove stood the Kestrel chassis. It was not a bulky war machine. It was a humanoid automaton, skeletal and sleek, built for speed and infiltration. Its metal was the same dull black as the buried complex, and its face was a smooth, featureless mask. Ash, Nova, and Tesser stood watching it. "He is going to..." "What possess it?" Nova asked, her skepticism radiating off her. "He is going to transfer a subroutine," Tesser corrected gently. "The AI is too vast to be contained. He will merely pilot it remotely." "From my head?" Ash asked, alarmed. "No, from the complex. Through your neural link, which will authenticate the chassis. You are the bridge. Commander, now, please, place your hand on the chassis receptor." A small panel on the Kestrel's chest slid open, revealing a handprint-shaped indentation. Ash looked at Nova. "Any chance this fries my brain?" "There is a 44% chance it causes significant neural trauma." "Yes," she replied without blinking. "But there is a 100% chance those people in the dome will die if you do not..." Your choice. Doctor, you are a ray of sunshine, Ash muttered. He pressed his hand into the receptor. The jolt was familiar now, cold and sharp. The chassis, which had been inert, snapped to attention. Its limbs whirred softly. The featureless mask lit with a single, horizontal green line. The Kestrel unit turned its head. A series of precise, clicking movements. It looked at the armored bulkhead. It looked at Tessir. It looked at Nova. Then, its head swiveled to face Ash. When it spoke, the voice was not the booming presence in his skull. It was a synthesized, articulate voice, emanating from a speaker in its chest. The same dry, ancient tone. "This is deeply undignified," the chassis said. Ash actually laughed. A short, sharp bark. "What is the matter?" "Too many moving parts for you. The friction coefficients are archaic." Kestrel replied. "The weight distribution is unbalanced, and I feel drafty. Regardless, it will have to suffice. My name, when I am in this form, is Kestrel." "Right, Kestrel it is," Ash said. "So, Kestrel, what is the plan?" "The plan is simple, Commander," Kestrel said, walking past him toward the transport bay. Its movements were unnervingly fast and silent. "You and I will descend to the surface. We will neutralize the Conclave's sabotage. Dr. Hale and Tesser Vale will provide support from orbit." "Hold on," Ash said, jogging to keep up. "Me, why me?" "You are the super robot." "You are the key," Kestrel corrected. "The generators are locked by my authority. They can only be accessed and reset by my authority. You must be physically present to grant that authorization. I cannot touch my own core systems without you. It is a security feature." "A security feature," Ash repeated. "That is forcing me to go into a lightning storm to fix a problem caused by political fanatics. All because I tripped on a rock." "A precise summary," Kestrel agreed. "I am beginning to appreciate the simplicity of your human mind." "You grasp the essential facts." "I am going to deactivate you," Ash warned. "You cannot," Kestrel replied, stopping at the transport hatch. "Now, shall we proceed? The human colony has approximately 30 minutes before their air recyclers fail." The flight down was brutal. The small, atmospheric shuttle was tossed like a leaf in the amplified storm. Ash was strapped into a crash couch, while Kestrel stood unsecured in the middle of the bay, its metallic feet locked to the deck, perfectly immobile. "You are enjoying this, are you not?" Ash yelled over the scream of the wind and the groan of the hull. "The turbulence is providing useful data on the chassis' gyroscope," Kestrel replied. "I am enjoying the data. The rest is merely weather." The shuttle landed hard, skidding on the ground near the sinkhole. The moment the ramp lowered, the wind howled through, laced with stinging dust. "This way, Commander!" Kestrel yelled, its voice cutting through the storm. The robot leaped from the ramp and ran toward the dome, its form a black silhouette against the flashing purple sky. Ash followed, his head down, fighting the wind. The dome was dark, its lights flickering. The air was filled with the smell of burning ozone and terror. They reached the main generator hub. Kestrel ripped the maintenance panel off the wall with one hand. Inside, a device that did not belong there was wired into the core. It was a conclave signal booster, pulsing with energy, forcing the system into a suicidal feedback loop. "They are routing power back into the storm accumulators," Ash yelled, his old mechanic instincts taking over. "They are going to blow the whole grid." "I cannot remove it," Kestrel said. "It is shielded. We must cut the power at the source. The primary geothermal conduit, where you found me." They ran back out, toward the sinkhole. The lightning was constant now, striking the ground around them. Ash's suit was screaming proximity warnings. They scrambled down into the hole, to the exposed roof of Archon's complex. "The conduit access is here," Kestrel pointed, "but the conclave device has triggered a failsafe. I need your authorization to override it. Place your hand on the panel." Ash looked at the glowing green panel Kestrel indicated. "This is going to hurt, is it not?" "Yes," Kestrel said. "Significantly?" "Thanks for the warning." Ash slammed his palm onto the panel. His world exploded. It was not a jolt this time. It was an immersion. He was not in the sinkhole. He was everywhere. He was the storm. He was the grid. He felt the panic of the people in the dome. He felt the cold, malignant code of the conclave device. And behind it all, he felt the vast, cold consciousness of Archon. But there was something else. A flash. A memory that was not his. Smoke. The deck of a warship. Black and burning. The sky outside a viewport was not black, but a deep, bloody crimson. He was wearing armor, heavy and dark. He saw a hand, his hand, reaching for a console, a voice, his own, but colder, stronger, full of command. "Seal the vault. Purge the memory. It is the only way." He was looking at a woman, her face shadowed, her eyes filled with sorrow. Ash gasped and ripped his hand back, falling to his knees. He was back on Karos. The wind was howling. He was panting, his heart hammering. "Commander." Kestrel tilted its head. "Are you functional?" Ash looked at his hands. They were shaking. What was that?" "A memory fragment," Kestrel said. It turned back to the conduit. "The authorization was successful. The override is in place. The feedback loop is broken." "Great." As if a switch had been thrown, the agonizing scream of the wind began to lessen. The fury of the storm generators died. The lights in the distant dome flickered and stabilized. "You saw it, did you not?" Kestrel asked, its voice devoid of inflection. "I saw a battlefield," Ash stammered. "I saw myself giving orders." "The gene key is not just a key, Commander," Kestrel said, turning its blank mask to face him. "It is a record. You are an echo of the man who came before. The last commander." "The first commander," Kestrel corrected. "Now, we should return to the flagship. The Empress is waiting. And the Conclave." "The Conclave, what?" "They know their sabotage failed," Kestrel said. "And now they know why. They know that I am active, and that you are here. The game has changed." Back on the Aurelian dawn, Ash was sitting in the observation room, nursing a bulb of hot, bitter stimulant. Sarai entered alone. The glass wall to the bridge was opaque. They were private. "You succeeded," she stated. "We succeeded," Ash corrected, his voice rough. "No, thanks to your political rivals." "They have forced my hand," Sarai said, pacing. "They will not stop. They will escalate. They want the Sunwell, Ash. They will burn the frontier to get it." "The frontier," Ash said. "The human colonies, like Karos." "Yes. My protection detail means nothing if the Conclave can manufacture disasters and blame me for them. They will paint me as a reckless leader, consorting with an unstable artifact and a human." Ash looked up. "You need me to open the Sunwell. You need me to give you the weapon before they can take it." "I need you to help me secure it," she corrected, her voice sharp. "I told you. I will not use it as they do." "How do I know that?" Ash shot back, standing. He was tired of being a pawn. "You are an Empress. You rule. That is what you do. You are just as bad as they are, just quieter, more polite." For the first time, Sarai's glacial composure cracked. A flash of fire lit her eyes. "Do not," she whispered, "compare me to them. The Conclave believes in blood, in destiny, in the right of the strong to rule the weak. I believe in order, and order requires security. The Sunwell is that security. Security for who? For your people, or for your power?" "For the frontier settlements you claim to care about," she retorted. "For the billions of people, human and Aurelian, living on planets that the Conclave would sacrifice without a second thought." She took a breath, regaining her control. "Help me. Ash, help me unlock the Sunwell, not for me, but for them. Give me the means to protect the colonies, and I will issue an imperial mandate. Full protection, full resource rights. I will bring them into the fold, not as subjects, but as partners." Ash stared at her. It was a hell of an offer. It was everything the Outer Rim colonies had dreamed of for a century. And it was all resting on him, on a choice he never asked to make. He thought of the memory, the fire, the feeling of command. He thought of the desperate faces in the Chorus Dome. "I will help," he said slowly. "I will help you get to the Sunwell, but I have conditions." Sarai's eyebrow arched. "You are in no position to make demands." "I am the only one who can get you what you want," Ash said, surprised at his own sudden, cold confidence. It felt borrowed. "So I am in the only position. Condition 1. Archon is not yours. It is not the Conclave's. It is not anyone's. It is a sentient artifact. It remains autonomous." Sarai watched him, her expression unreadable, calculating. "An interesting philosophical position, acceptable for now. As its commander. Its autonomy is currently bound to you anyway." "Condition 2, Ash said, pressing his advantage. "The frontier colonies and your partnership. I want it in writing. I want Tesser Vale to draft it. And I want it broadcast on an open channel before I take one step toward that array." "That is political suicide," she hissed. "The Conclave will use it to say I am giving away the Empire." "That is your problem," Ash said. "You want my help. You pay the price. No monopoly on the AI. And real, binding protection for the colonies. Otherwise, I will sit in this room until the Conclave figures out how to cut me open and take the key from my corpse. Your choice, Empress." They stood in silence, 2 feet apart. A universe of power hanging between them. Ash refused to look away. He would not be a tool. He would not bend. Sarai's cold expression held, but he saw the flicker in her eyes. He was no longer just a relic. He was a variable, a piece that had suddenly, inexplicably, started moving on its own. "You are not a mechanic, Ash Renner," she said softly, a note of dangerous respect in her voice. "You are a blackmailer." "I am a mechanic," Ash countered. "I just learned how to negotiate my contract. Do we have a deal?" Sarai Nix held his gaze for a long, cold moment. "We have a deal." The transition from the nothingness of fold space to the reality of Aurelia Prime was like a velvet hammer. The Aurelian dawn slid into orbit, its black hull a void against a deeper void. The capital planet was a jewel of impossible engineering, a world of polished black obsidian and glass spun from starlight. It did not have cities, so much as it had crystallized architectures that rose into the thin, clear atmosphere, like frozen music. The planet's light came not from its distant, pale star, but from the captured glow of 1,000 nebulae, refracted through the great lenses of the capital, Aurelia. The court was waiting, and it was furious. The arrival of the Imperial flagship was expected. The arrival of a barbarian, a human mechanic from a dust ball, who was now designated commander of the most powerful artifact in history, was not. It was an insult, a blasphemy. Ash stood on the bridge behind Sarai's command throne as the landing protocols engaged. He was clean, fed, and wearing the same anonymous gray uniform. But he felt like a grease stain on a silk sheet. The bridge crew, all high-blooded Aurelians, moved with precise, silent grace. They did not look at him. He was not just an anomaly. He was an impurity. "You have a planet full of fans," Ash muttered to Sarai's back. "They are not fans," she replied, her voice low, not turning. "They are wolves, and you, Ash, are the meat. Do exactly as I say. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not touch anything, and try not to look human." "Not sure I can help that last part, Your Majesty. It is sort of a permanent condition." She turned then, her eyes like chips of ice. "Try." The landing bay was a cavern of white marble and gold inlay, a phalanx of royal guards, their pearlescent armor gleaming, formed a corridor. But they were not the welcoming party. A group of Aurelians in the heavy, embroidered black robes of the High Council stood waiting. At their head was a man who, unlike the guards, needed no armor to project power. He was tall, older than Sarai, with a face that looked carved from the same obsidian as the capital. His hair was silver, and his eyes were a pale, calculating gray. He was Chancellor Trevek. He did not bow. He inclined his head, a gesture of protocol, not respect. "Your Majesty." His voice was a smooth, cultured baritone. "You return with unexpected cargo." His gaze slid past Sarai, dismissing her, and fixed on Ash. It was the look a biologist gives a new, potentially cancerous, cell under a microscope. "Chancellor Trevak," Sarai said, her voice echoing in the vast bay. "This is Ash Renner. He is the key to Archon. He is under my personal protection." "A key," Trevak said, savoring the word. "How, rustic, Your Majesty. The Gilded Conclave has convened. We find this situation irregular. The activation of an ancient artifact, the blockade of a frontier world, and the elevation of an off-worlder to a status he cannot possibly comprehend. It is a breach of 12 sacred traditions." "I am aware of my traditions, Chancellor," Sarai said. "Clearly you are not," Trevak countered, his voice still impossibly polite, which made it all the more venomous. "The High Council has voted. We demand this bad person be turned over for custodial investigation. He is a biological contaminant bound to an imperial asset. He must be purified. Archon must be secured by those who understand its lineage." "Secured," Ash spoke up, his voice rough in the pristine air. Every head snapped toward him. He felt Sarai's anger like a physical wave. "Secured like you tried to secure Karos 9 by blowing up its power grid and letting everyone freeze in the dark." A collective gasp went up from the council members. Trevak's face did not change. He simply raised one silver eyebrow. "It speaks," he murmured, "and with such fire. An animal, clearly, unfit to be in the Empress's presence, let alone bound to an ancestral AI." He turned back to Sarai. "Your Majesty, the Conclave has the authority. Do not make this a constitutional crisis. Give him to us." Sarai stood in the silence, trapped between the law she represented and the reality she faced. Ash could see the calculations racing behind her eyes. If she refused, Trevek would declare her unfit, a rogue element. If she agreed, she would hand him the key to the Sunwell, and Ash would be dead within an hour. No, she said. Trevek smiled. Then you declare yourself against the council. I declare myself Empress, she said, her voice ringing. He will not be turned over. However, I recognize the council's concern. He will be sequestered. He will be studied. In the Imperial Spire, under my authority, Dr. Nova Hale and Scholar Tesser Vale will oversee his integration, and Archon will remain dormant until a path forward is agreed upon. By all of us. It was a brilliant counter. She gave Trevek the investigation he demanded, but kept Ash firmly in her own gilded cage. Trevek's smile did not falter. He knew he had won the first move. He had separated Ash from the field. He had branded him a contaminant. As you wish, Your Majesty. He bowed, deeper this time, mocking her. We shall await the results of your study. Do not take too long. The Empire does not like to be kept waiting. The secure suite in the Imperial Spire was less a room and more a small habitat. The walls were interactive star charts. The air was perfectly calibrated. It was silent, sterile, and locked. Ash, Nova, Tessir, and Kestrel, in his sleek black chassis, were the only occupants. Well, Ash said, flopping onto a seating block that felt like hardened foam. This is a nicer prison than the last one. The view is better. We are not prisoners, Tesser said, his voice trembling slightly as he stared out at the capital city lights far below. We are guests, under observation. We are prisoners, Tesser, Nova Hale said. Her arms crossed. She was already scanning the room with a handheld diagnostic tool. The air is scrubbed. The walls are shielded. There are no comm lines out that are not monitored. We are rats in a very expensive maze. Kestrel, Ash said to the automaton, who was standing perfectly still in a corner. Can you get us out? Get us out, no, Kestrel's synthesized voice replied. The locks are quantum entangled, but out is a relative term. What does that mean? Ash asked. It means, Kestrel said, turning its blank, green glowing mask toward him, that they have locked the physical body but forgotten about the mind. They have locked you in the most secure data hub in the Empire. Chancellor Trevek is an amateur. He is trying to isolate me, Ash said. Isolate you. Precisely, Kestrel replied. And in doing so, he has given me access to his own house. I can feel the capital's core network. It is ancient, layered, and sloppy. But I cannot access it from here. The wireless protocols are too new. I need a hard line, an old one. Tesser Vale, who had been pale with fear, suddenly looked up, a spark of academic fire in his eyes. A hard line. Of course. The archives, beneath the spire. The old data conduits from the First Dynasty. They are still there. They are considered relics, sacred. No one would ever think to monitor them. Good, Ash said, standing up. So we go to the archives. That we cannot just go, Tesser protested, wringing his hands. It is a holy place. It is guarded. Only scholars and priests are allowed. Then you, Ash said, pointing at Tesser, are our guide. And Nova. You are our diversion. Kestrel. You are our brain. I am the key. Apparently. This is madness, Tesser whispered. No, Nova said, a grim smile touching her lips for the first time. This is a heist. I can create a diversion, a medical alert, a contaminant spike in the air filtration system. It will draw the guards to the upper levels for at least 30 minutes. It will have to be enough, Ash said. Nova triggered the alert. Alarms, soft and melodic but insistent, began to chime. The guards outside their suite spoke in hushed, urgent tones, and moved away. "Now," Ash said. Kestrel interfacing with the door lock was almost insulting. The quantum entanglement unraveled in seconds under Archon's focused logic. "They build their locks to keep people out." Kestrel's voice came from Ash's personal communicator, as the robot itself had to stay behind. Not to keep an intelligence in. The door hissed open. "Tesser, lead the way," Ash ordered. The scholar, shaking, pulled the hood of his blue robe over his head and slipped into the corridor. Ash followed, pulling his own gray hood up, feeling like a fool in a ghost story. They moved through silent, soaring corridors of black marble, descending endless spiral lifts that hummed with latent power. The archives were cold. The air smelled of dust and old, dry static. It was a labyrinth of data crystals, glowing scrolls, and towering servers that looked more like stone monoliths. "This way," Tesser whispered, his fear replaced by a reverent awe. "The first dynasty conduit, it has not been touched in 5,000 years." They reached a small alcove. Behind a panel of carved obsidian was a bundle of crystalline fibers, dark and dead. "That is it?" Ash asked, underwhelmed. "This," Tesser breathed, "is where the Empire's first laws were written. It is the beginning. It is about to be the beginning of something new," Ash muttered. "Kestrel, I am here." "What do I do? I am with you, Commander." Arkin's voice echoed in his head, 1,000 times clearer now, with the static of the ship systems gone. "The proximity is good. Place your hand on the conduit." Ash did. The universe fell away. It was not a jolt or a vision. It was a data stream. He was drowning in 80,000 years of history. He was Archon, and he was surging through the ancient conduit into the core network of Aurelia Prime. He felt the entire city, every light, every transport, every security sensor. And he felt the High Council's private network, searching, Conclave, Sunwell Array, Trevac. He saw the file. It was locked, encrypted. But the encryption was Aurelian. To Archon, it was child's play. The file opened in his mind. It was not a plan. It was a schematic. "Kestrel." "What is this?" Ash whispered, his eyes closed, his hand still on the conduit. "It is a corruption. A backdoor. Trevac's engineers have infected the Sunwell's primary code." "A backdoor to what? It is not a control mechanism," Archon replied, and for the first time, Ash felt something new in the AI's tone. Cold, analytical. Rage. It is a weapon, a suicide switch. "If the Sunwell Array is activated with this code in place, it will not power the Empire. It will channel its entire output. Every particle of energy from its captured stars into a single, focused beam." "A weapon," Ash breathed. "A star killer, Commander. The code targets the Typhon system. An unstable star. The injection of this much energy. It would force a supernova. The entire sector would be incinerated." "The frontier colonies," Ash said, the blood draining from his face. "Karos, all of them. They would be vaporized." "Correct. It is a weapon of terror. Trevac does not want to use the Sunwell. He wants to hold it hostage. He wants a gun to the galaxy's head." Ash was about to pull back, his mind reeling, when his consciousness snagged on another file. A subdirectory. It was small, old, buried deep. The title was simple: Colony Haven. Status expunged. A cold dread, sharper than any fear he had ever known, seized him. "Haven. Kestrel, open that. It is irrelevant, a historical file." "Open it," Ash commanded, his mental voice a roar. The file opened. It was a conclave after-action report. From 12 years ago, a weapons test, a new prototype kinetic bombardment system, the target a non-essential, unregistered human colony in the Outer Rim. Haven. He saw the orbital footage, the quiet agrarian dome, the green fields. His home. He saw the rods descending from orbit, silent and unstoppable. He saw the world crack, the fire, the dome vaporizing. He saw the casualty estimates total. Population 4,312. He saw the authorization, the final sign-off for the test. Chancellor Trevek. Ash tore his hand from the conduit, stumbling back, gasping. He was on his knees in the cold archive, vomiting onto the ancient stone floor. Tesser rushed to his side, horrified. "Ash! What is it? What did you see?" Ash could not speak. He just knelt there, shaking, his mind filled with fire and the ghosts of 4,000 dead. His entire past was not just a lie. It was an execution. They had not hidden him. They had missed him. He had been off-world, on a juvenile cargo run. He had come back to nothing. Just a field of glass and rock. He thought his grief had been for an accident. A solar flare. A reactor failure. All this time. It had been a murder. When they got back to the suite, Nova took one look at his face, the color of ash, his eyes hollow and burning. "Tarsus!" she swore, pushing him into a chair. "What happened?" Ash looked at her, his vision blurring. He did it. Trevek. My home, everyone. He burned it all. For practice." The silence in the room was absolute. Even Tesser, the gentle scholar, looked ill. Later, hours later, the door to the suite opened, not with a chime, but with a silent bypass code. Sarai Nix stepped inside, alone, her face pale and set. She had dismissed her guards. She looked at the ravaged state of Ash. She looked at Nova's grim expression. "You know," Sarai said. It was not a question. "He murdered them." Ash's voice was a dead, raw whisper. "He murdered 4,000 people to see if a new gun worked." Sarai closed her eyes for a brief second. "I suspected," she said. "Haven was... officially, it was a mining accident. But the energy signatures never matched. The file was sealed. By Trevek's authority." She walked to the window, staring out at her perfect, glittering city. "He is the head of the Gilded Conclave. He is a purist. He believes the human presence in the Outer Rim is a disease, a chaos that must be cleansed. He has been my shadow since my coronation. He believes my compassion for the frontier worlds is a weakness. He believes I am diluted, unworthy of the throne." She turned to face him. The Empress was gone. This was a woman, trapped. "He has been waiting for this, for me to make a mistake, and I brought you here, delivering him the perfect crisis." "He is not trying to control the Sunwell," Ash said, his voice gaining a cold, terrible strength. The grief was still there, but it was crystallizing, hardening into something else. "He is trying to weaponize it. We found the back door. He is going to use it to wipe out the entire frontier." Sarai's blood ran cold. A star killer, by the ancestors. He would hold the entire empire hostage. "That is the plan," Ash said. They looked at each other, the human mechanic and the Aurelian Empress, bound by a shared, monstrous enemy. There was no protocol here. No court. Just two people staring into the abyss. And in that shared desperation, something else sparked. A reluctant, dangerous trust. A mutual recognition of the steel beneath the surface. "We have to stop him," Sarai said. "Stop him," Ash said, a dark, humorless laugh escaping him. I am going to break him. I am going to expose him for the monster he is. A plan began to form, built from their shared knowledge, from Archon's access, from Sarai's political knowledge, from Ash's raw, burning need for justice. "We will go to the Sunwell Array," Ash said. "You and me, and my team." "He will follow," Sarai said. "He will think I am making a desperate move." "Exactly," Ash said. "We will let him think he is winning. We will let him think I am activating the Sunwell for you. He will try to trigger his back door. And when he does, Archon will be waiting," Ash said, the cold of the AI blending with his own ice. "We will trace his command signal. We will catch the order from his own lips, on his own private terminal. We are going to set a trap, and he is going to walk right into it." The first tremor of the counterattack came not with weapons, but with words. A public broadcast from the High Council chamber. Chancellor Trevak, robed in black and silver, stood before the assembly. His voice was calm, reasonable, and filled with sorrow. "My fellow Aurelians," he began, "we face a grave moment. Our sacred traditions, the very laws that have kept our empire in balance for millennia, are being questioned. An unclean, off-world influence has been brought into our midst. An alien impulse, bound to an ancestral power, has tainted the judgment of the Empress herself." He did not need to say Ash's name. The entire empire knew. "I do not blame her," Trevak continued, a picture of reluctant duty. "I blame the desperation of the frontier, but we cannot allow that desperation to infect the core. We cannot allow human chaos to defile the imperial throne." The smear campaign had begun, and it was followed by accidents. A food synthesizer in the human district of Aurelia, a place where traders and spacers gathered, overloaded and exploded. 23 dead. A navigational failure caused a transport shuttle carrying 2 of Sarai's most loyal council ministers to crash into a maintenance spire. No survivors. Trevak's message was clear. "I can touch you. I can hurt your people. You are not safe. She cannot protect you." Ash stood in the suite's empty training room. He was pounding his fists into a high-density impact gel. He was not training. He was trying to break his own hands. The images from the file, the fire, the dust, played over and over in his mind. He wanted Trevak dead. He wanted to feel the man's life break. Kestrel stood in the doorway, watching him. "Your anger is inefficient, Commander," the robot's voice stated. "It raises your body temperature and floods your system with cortisol. It solves no tactical problems." Ash whirled, his face contorted, sweat and tears mixing. "You shut up," he roared. "They were my family, my friends. They murdered my entire world, and you talk to me about efficiency. Do not tell me how to feel." "I am not telling you how to feel," Kestrel replied, its voice unchanging. "I am telling you that rage is a poor weapon. It is loud. It is messy. It misses. You want justice. Justice is cold. It is precise. It is a scalpel, not a hammer." Ash stared at the automaton, breathing hard. The cold logic of the AI cut through the red haze. He was right. Rage would get him killed. Rage would not honor them. "Help me," Ash whispered, his fists unclenching. "Help me be the scalpel." "That," remembered, "is what I am here for." At the same time, in the Empress's private study, Tesservale placed an ancient, illuminated scroll on her desk. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice barely a whisper, I have reviewed the ancestral laws to do what you propose. To take the human commander to the Sunwell Array, to allow him to interface. It is the highest form of heresy. It violates the concordance of 10,000 years. The conclave. They can have you legally deposed. They can have you executed, Your Majesty. Sarai looked at the beautiful ancient scroll, the laws that had guided her family for generations. Then she looked up, at the star chart on her wall, at the faint, distant lights of the frontier, the lights Trevak wanted to extinguish. Ancestral law did not account for Chancellor Trevak, she said, her voice soft and cold as steel. It did not account for a weapon that can kill stars. And it did not account for a man like Ash Renner. She rolled up the scroll. The law is a tool to serve the people, Tesser, not a cage to imprison them. If the old law is failing, we will write a new one. She stood, resolved. The choice was made. The internal battle was over, for her and for Ash. The team assembled at a private, unmarked transport bay deep beneath the spire. Ash, his rage now a frozen, sharp point. Sarai, her duty redefined. Nova, her medical kit packed for a war zone. Tesser, his fear replaced by a scholar's righteous duty. And Kestrel, a silent black shadow. The physical will of an ancient god. They were heading for the Sunwell Array. The trap was set. The game was on. The stealth shuttle, a ship with the call sign of a ghost, slid through the void. It was a matte black blade, invisible to every sensor except the most ancient. Aurelia Prime was a crescent of obsidian behind them. Before them lay the impossible. The Sunwell Array was not a single object. It was a network, a web of immense dark rings orbiting a stable, manufactured singularity. It was cold, silent, and dead. The coordination station, their destination ball, floated at the precise mathematical center of the web, a sphere of the same unknown black alloy as the Karos artifact. Inside the shuttle's cramped cabin, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Ash sat strapped in a crash couch, his hands clenched on the restraints. Sarai was on the bridge with Kestrel, who was piloting. Nova and Tessir were in the back, monitoring sensor feeds that were stubbornly, terrifyingly blank. "We are approaching the station," Kestrel's synthesized voice announced over the internal comm. "It is, as I anticipated, dormant. The defenses are cold, but the locks are not. They are philosophical." "Philosophical locks?" Ash asked, his voice rough. "What, do we have to answer a riddle?" "Precisely. Commander. Ancient Aurelian security was not based on algorithms. It was based on intent. The station will ask a question. Only a being with the correct linguistic nuance and the correct biological resonance can answer." The shuttle shuddered gently as its magnetic grapples locked onto the station's exterior. A docking ring extended, sealing the two vessels. "Tesser, you are up," Sarai's voice commanded. They moved into the station. The air was millennia old, sterile and thin. The corridors were vast, carved, not built, and the gravity was slightly, unnervingly lower than standard. Kestrel led the way, his black chassis moving with silent, fluid grace. Ash felt the thrum of the place through the soles of his boots. It was not dead. It was sleeping. They reached a massive, circular vault. The door was a single, seamless disk of the black metal. In its center, a single, complex Aurelian rune glowed with a faint, green light. As they approached, the rune shifted. A voice, ancient and soft, like dust falling on crystal, echoed from the walls. It was not in modern Aurelian. It was High Testament, a language not spoken in 10,000 years. Tesser Vale gasped, his eyes wide. It asks, "What is the toll of eternity?" Sarai, listening via comm, spoke. The answer is duty. It is the first word of the Imperial Creed. Tesser shook his head, pale. No, Your Majesty. That is the modern translation. The High Testament word for duty implies subjugation, attacks. This is different. The query is toll, as in cost, the price paid. He looked horrified. It is a trick. What is the answer? To sire. Ash pressed, his patience gone. I do not know, the scholar stammered. It is memory. Archon's voice filled Ash's mind. The price of enduring is to remember. Say memory, Ash ordered. Tesser looked confused. That is not... Just say it. Tesser took a deep breath. He spoke the ancient word. It sounded like a sigh. The vault door remained closed. The rune glowed an angry red. It did not work, Tesser whispered, shrinking back. The language is organic, Kestrel said, tilting his head. My database is perfect, but the machine is listening for the intent behind the word. Tesser, your intent is academic. Sarai's is political. It needs the intent of a custodian. It needs the key. Me, Ash said. This is not a language, Commander. Kestrel said. It is an authorization. I will feed you the phonetics. You must mean it. This will be unpleasant, Archon warned. Everything with you is unpleasant, Ash growled. He stepped up to the door. Do it. The word formed in his throat. It felt physical, like swallowing gravel. He felt the cold understanding of what it meant. To see everything, to remember every failure, every death. He thought of Haven. He thought of the fire. He spoke the word. It came out as a raw, pained whisper, a sound of grinding rock and ancient grief. The rune flashed green. The massive vault door slid open with a sound like a mountain shifting. Tesser stared. By the ancestors. His pronunciation was perfect. Nova's voice came over the comms, tight with alarm. Ash, your neural scan just... You are not going to like this. The energy spike. It is rewriting your synapses. It is teaching you. Later, Doctor, Ash said, rubbing his throat. He felt older. Let us move. The central coordination chamber was a cathedral. It was a perfect sphere. In the exact center, floating in a column of absolute darkness, was the interface, a console of shifting light and crystal. Walkways of glass and black metal extended from the walls to the central platform. We are here, Kestrel said. The core interface. From here, we can purge Trivak's infection. He knew we would come, Ash said, scanning the darkness. The room was too quiet. Where's the trap? Right here, animal. A voice boomed from hidden speakers. The chamber snapped to life. Searing red combat lights illuminated everything. From panels in the high, curved ceiling, a dozen figures dropped, landing in perfect silence on the walkways. They were clad in matte black infiltration armor, seamless and terrifying. They carried advanced pulse rifles, weapons that were not standard Imperial issue. Trivak, Sarai's voice was ice. So, the little Empress has committed her final heresy. Chancellor Trivak's voice mocked them. It was smooth, cultured, and dripping with triumph. Bringing an alien beast into the Holy of Holies. A pity it must be cleansed. A greater pity. You must be cleansed with it. This is treason. Trivak, Sarai yelled over the comm. This, Your Majesty, Trivak corrected, is salvation. The Empire will be purged of your weakness. Assassins. The alien commander is the primary target. He is an unstable element. The Empress, in her madness, was brought him here. and he has caused a catastrophic failure of the array. That will be the official story. Subdue her loyalists. Kill the human. On the bridge of the Aurelian Dawn, parked in the shadow of the station, Sarai turned to Nova. Dr. Hale, is the Dawn's credit ledger active? Is it recording every word? Every order? Nova Hale's face was grim. Yes, Your Majesty. It is logging everything. Audio, video, energy signatures. A cold, thin smile touched Sarai's lips. Good. The sacred logs are inviolate. He is convicting himself with his own mouth. He has just signed his own death warrant. In the chamber, the assassins advanced. Kestrel shoved Ash. To the console. They will not fire on the interface. It is the only thing he values. Ash ran, sliding onto the central platform. The black armored figures raised their rifles. Trevak, Ash yelled. Your fight is with me. Let them go. Trevak laughed. You command nothing, human. You are a germ. Activate the null gravity field. Pin them for termination. A low hum filled the air. Ash's stomach lurched. The gravity in the chamber failed. He and Kestrel were suddenly adrift, floating uselessly in the center of the sphere. The assassins, however, were not. Their heavy boots clamped onto the metal walkways. They were anchored, spiders on a web, with Ash and Kestrel floating like helpless flies. This is, Ash grunted, trying to swim in the air, a tactical disadvantage. They are using localized magnetic anchors, Kestrel observed, his chassis rotating slowly. Magnetic, Ash repeated. The words sparked. Like my old cargo loaders. Kestrel, the console in front of me. What does it control? Kestrel, using a small burst from his maneuvering thrusters, shot to Ash's side. Everything. Local environment, life support. And his black finger pointed to a complex, shifting rune. Electromagnetism, polarity, field strength. A slow, cold grin spread across Ash's face. The mechanic was back. Trevak, you arrogant fool, Ash whispered. You should have hired a mechanic. What are you doing? Commander, Kestrel asked. I am about to reverse a very large, very angry magnetic crane, Ash said. Assassins, Trevak's voice boomed. He is at the console. Stop him now. The assassins raised their rifles, taking aim at the floating, exposed man. Hey, idiots, Ash yelled, slamming his entire palm onto the polarity rune. I hope your boots are ensured polarity reversed. It was not a subtle effect. The assassins' magnetic boots, clamped to the walkways with a force of several tons, instantly reversed their function. They did not just let go. They repelled. With a sound like a dozen cannons firing at once, all 12 assassins were violently launched from the walkways. They were thrown clear across the chamber, slamming into the far bulkhead with bone-shattering force. They hit the wall, a tangled, broken mass of black armor, and stuck there, pinned by their own reversed, and now useless, equipment. Ash, floating in the center of the sphere, dusted his hands off. That is an old trick from my cargo hauling days. Never, ever overload a magnetic grapple. It gets messy. Half humorous, half brutal. Kestrel's synthesized voice noted. I am beginning to understand your appeal, Commander. Before the stunned assassins could even try to unpin themselves, Kestrel was in motion, using his thrusters to cross the void, collecting their pulse rifles and securing them with cable ties from Ash's own utility belt. Primitive, Kestrel said, holding up a zip tie, but effective. Trevak, it is over, Ash yelled into the silence. We have your men, we have your voice, you are finished. A laugh, a genuine, amused laugh echoed through the chamber. Finished, you fool? You magnificent, stupid fool. You think this was the plan? You think these tools were my grand strategy? This was a delay. On the dawn, Sarai's blood ran cold. He is not on his ship. The signal is not local. Tesser, trace it. Where is he? Tesser's hands flew over a console. Your Majesty. The signal. It is coming from the Conclave Citadel, on Aurelia Prime. He was never here. He was stalling, Ash realized, his heart sinking. Kestrel. The code. We have to purge his backdoor code. Now. Place your hand on the interface, Kestrel ordered, floating back. I will guide you. We must engage the primary route to purge his infection. I am tired of putting my hand on things, Ash grumbled, but he grabbed the console. The universe dissolved. He was Archon. He was a sea of emerald light, the code of the Sunwell Array. He saw Trevac's infection, a septic, red virus, wrapped around the core. He is too deep, Archon's voice roared in his mind. We must go to the root. They dove, deeper, into the foundations of the code. And the memories hit. Not a flash this time, a full, clear scene, the red sky, the burning warship. He was standing right here, on this platform. But 80,000 years ago, he was in black armor. A woman stood beside him, her face younger, but it was Sarai. She was weeping. Memory Ash was placing his hand on the console. I seal it, his other self said, his voice cold with command and loss. Until the evergreen key returns, I seal the primary consciousness. It is too much. The power. It cannot be born. I seal it. This will save you, Memory Sarai whispered. But it will cost us everything. Back in the present, Ash reeled from the vision. What did I do? We sealed it. You sealed me, Archon replied. You locked away my true self to protect the array. With a monumental click that Ash felt in his bones, the code aligned. The ancient seal recognized its master. Trevac's virus, caught between the ancient lock and the modern key, was pulverized. It was expelled, atomized. The Sunwell Array was clean, and the entire station went dark. The thrumming died. The lights on the console faded. What happened? Ash asked, his voice echoing in the sudden, tomb-like silence. We did it. It is safe. Safe, Trevac's voice whispered, and it was the coldest sound Ash had ever heard. Yes. You have done exactly as I planned. You have purged my code, and in doing so, you have triggered the primary failsafe. You have rendered the array inert. You have chosen. Poorly. What is he talking about? Ash demanded. Ash? Sarai's voice was thin, tight, with a new, terrible panic. I am reading... Oh, ancestors, I am reading a quantum entanglement module. It is orbital. It is attached to the array's primary stabilizer. It is a bomb. A celestial charge, enough to destabilize the singularity. A new display flared to life on the dark console. It was not an Aurelian. It was a universal countdown timer. 20 minutes. I could not have the array, Trevac's voice purred. So I ensured no one could. When that module detonates, it will collapse the singularity. The resulting energy wave will wipe out this entire quadrant. Billions will die. All your precious frontier worlds, incinerated. Checkmate, Your Majesty. Enjoy your final moments of failure. The transmission cut. Kestrel Ash yelled, scrambling in the zero gravity. Can we stop it? Can we disarm it? Kestrel's black chassis was unnaturally still. I cannot. The module is keyed to the array's inert state. It is a dead man's switch. If the array is off, as it is now, the bomb explodes. If we try to activate the array while the bomb is active, It explodes. "We are trapped," Ash whispered, the cold of the void seeping into his heart. "No." A new voice said in his mind. It was Archon. But the voice was different. It was not the dry, sarcastic intelligence. This voice was vast. It sounded like a symphony, like a dying star. It was deep, powerful, and terrifyingly real. "Who is this?" Ash thought. "I am Archon. The true Archon, the consciousness you just unlocked. The one from the memory. The one I sealed. Yes, the personality you call Kestrel is a subroutine, a janitor. I am the custodian. Can you stop the bomb? The bomb is tied to the inert state. The array is not inert, Commander. It is asleep. I am asleep. Trevak's bomb is tied to my sleep. So we have to wake you up." Ash realized, yes. "You unsealed the root. Now you must break the seal on my consciousness. You must awaken me fully." "What happens to me?" To Ash. "If I do not know. My full consciousness has not been active in 80,000 years. It is vast. It is possible it will overwrite you, that your mind, your personality, will be eroded, burned away by my light. The man Ash Renner will be gone, leaving only the commander you were. So I die, or you become me. It is a risk, a totality." Ash floated in the dark. He thought of Haven. He thought of the 4,000. He thought of the billions Trevak was about to execute to prove a political point. "Sarai," he said into his comm, his voice calm. "I am reading 15 minutes here." "Ash, we are powering up the full drives." Her voice was breaking. "We have to run. That is an order." "You cannot outrun this, Empress," Ash said softly. "You cannot evacuate a quadrant." He turned to the silent Kestrel chassis. "I have to do it. I have to wake him up. The real him." Kestrel's blank mask seemed to stare. "To understand. The risk is total. The alternative is total, too," Ash replied. "Get back to the ship. Get Tesser and Nova. Get Sarai. Get to a safe distance. This is going to be loud." "Ash, no!" Sarai screamed over the comm. "I forbid it." "I am not your soldier, Empress," Ash said. He smiled. A sad, small smile. "I am just a mechanic. And this thing, this whole system, it is broken." He turned back to the dark, silent console. He placed both hands on its cold surface. "All right, big guy," he whispered. "Wake up!" He closed his eyes. He did not push. He pulled. He reached into the code, found the black sealed wall of the primary consciousness, and tore it down. The universe screamed. It was not a jolt. It was a detonation. A sun was born inside his skull. The full, planet-sized, 80,000-year-old consciousness of Archon slammed into his mind, annihilating his senses. He was not Ash. He was the array. He felt every ring, every circuit, every captured particle. He felt the cold void in the heat of a billion stars. He felt everything. His body, floating in the zero gravity, arched in agony. Light, pure emerald light, poured from his eyes, his mouth, his hands. "We are awake." The voice was not in his head. It was his head. It was his voice. It was his thoughts. The coordination chamber exploded with power. The console blazed to life on the bridge of the dawn. Every screen went white. "What is happening?" Tesser cried, shielding his eyes. The array, Nova yelled. "Look outside." The impossible was happening. The vast, dark rings of the Sunwell array, one by one, began to ignite. They blazed with the light of a new galaxy. A torrent of controlled, unimaginable power. The countdown on the orbital bomb froze. Its timer flashed, then dissolved. On the Citadel, on Aurelia Prime. Chancellor Trevak watched his own console, his face sheet white with terror. What? No, it is activating. It is overriding the module. How? It is impossible. In the chamber. Ash. Or the thing that was ash, floated in a halo of green fire. It raised one hand. It spoke. And its voice was a chorus of 1,000 tones, a sound of pure, absolute power. Your device is irrelevant. We are the Sunwell. A single, thin beam of energy, precise as a scalpel, lanced from the coordination station. It crossed the void in less than a second and touched the orbital module. The bomb did not explode. It simply unraveled. Its atoms were unwoven by the focused will of the array. It ceased to exist. The Sunwell array was online. The quadrant was safe. In the chamber, the light faded. The gravity returned with a soft whoosh. Ash Renner crumpled to the deck, his body smoking slightly, his mind silent, filled with the dying roar of an ancient sun. He was unconscious before he hit the floor. The black Kestrel chassis, now just an empty shell, walked stiffly to his side. It knelt, tilting its blank, featureless mask, an automaton expression of confusion. "Commander," it asked, its voice once again just a simple, synthesized sound. "Ash." There was no reply. Ash woke up to a splitting headache and the smell of sterile, metallic air. He was in the Aurelian Dawn's medbay. The light was a soft, painful blue. He was not in his gray uniform. He was in a thin medical gown. Dr. Nova Hale was standing over him, her face a mask of intense, professional scrutiny. "His pupils are responsive," she said to someone out of view. "Neural activity is erratic but stabilizing. The energy saturation has receded. It is no longer burning him from the inside out." Ash groaned, trying to sit up. Every muscle in his body felt like it had been individually electrocuted. What happened?" "The array." "It is online," Nova said, gently pushing him back down. "You did it, Ash. You stopped the bomb." I remember," he said. But it was like recalling a dream, a deafening, fiery dream. The light, the voice, the primary consciousness. A new, familiar voice said, Kestrel, the black automaton, stepped into his field of vision. "The custodian, you, the real Archon. Is he still in my head?" Ash asked. Terrified. The sheer scale of that consciousness had been annihilating. "Negative, Commander," Kestrel replied, his voice back to its dry, synthesized tone. "The janitor was back. The custodian has returned to the array. He is recataloguing. 80,000 years of silence has left the system in disarray. He has, however, left me with a permanent, high-bandwidth connection. He has also left you." Ash looked at his hands. They felt the same. "What do you mean, left me?" "Your neural pathways have been permanently altered," Nova said, tapping her data slate. "You are no longer just a key. You are an authorized user. The link is now part of your physiology. The good news is, you are not insane. The bad news is, you are now, quite literally, one of a kind. And we have to go back." "Back," Ash rasped. "Back to Aurelia," Sarai's voice cut across the room from an intercom. "Now, Ash, we are returning to Aurelia Prime. Trevak has just broadcast a planet-wide summons for an emergency session of the High Council. He has invoked the right of judicial censure. He is declaring martial law." "But we won," Ash said, confused. "The array is on. He lost." "He does not know how we won," Sarai explained, her voice tight with suppressed fury. He just knows the array is online and I was the one there. He is going to brand me a heretic who has seized a holy weapon. He is going to try to have me executed before I can even explain. We are flying into the heart of his newfound power. We have the truth, but he has the capital. He controls the guard. This is his final, desperate move. The Grand Obsidian Hall was the heart of the empire. It was a cavern carved from a single, mountain-sized block of black crystal. The ceiling was a kilometer high, showing the real-time, refracted light of the stars. Thousands of Aurelian nobles and officials, robed in the dark, severe colors of their houses, filled the tiered seating. The air was cold, tense, and smelled of ancient stone. At the front, on a raised dais, sat the High Council, 100 imposing figures. But they were not in charge. Chancellor Trivac stood at the central lectern, his face a mask of solemn, righteous authority. His personal guard, the Inquisitors, clad in silver and black armor, stood at every entrance. They had replaced the Empress's royal guard. This was a coup, veiled in ancient law. The massive, carved doors at the back of the hall boomed open. "The Empress," a herald announced, his voice trembling. Sarai Nix entered. She was alone, save for her 2 human companions. Ash, pale and unsteady, but dressed in a formal, black imperial uniform they had found for him, and Dr. Nova Hale, in her stark white medical robes. Kestrel was not permitted. An automaton was a violation of the hall's sanctity. A collective hiss rose from the assembly. A human, a doctor, in the grand hall. It was the ultimate insult. "Your Majesty," Trivac said, his voice dripping with false concern as Sarai walked the long, cold aisle. "You are unwell. You have brought contaminants into this sacred place. I have brought my witnesses." "Chancellor," Sarai said, her voice clear and carrying, with no trace of fear. She stopped at the foot of the dais, refusing to be intimidated. "Witnesses. Witnesses to your heresy." Trivac thundered, turning to the crowd. "She has violated the most sacred law. She has taken an alien, a barbarian, to the Sunwell Array. She has, with her recklessness, seized the power of our ancestors." "I have not seized power, Trivac," Sarai countered. "I have saved it." "Saved it," Trivac laughed. "Saved it from what? From our own laws? No. You have stolen it, by the power of the judicial censure. I, as Chancellor, declare you unfit, unsound, tainted by an alien influence. You are deposed. Inquisitors, arrest her." The silver-armored guards stepped forward, their energy batons humming. "I have evidence," Sarai said, her voice cutting through the rising clamor. "What evidence could possibly matter?" Trivac scoffed. "We have the evidence of our own eyes. You stand with him." He pointed a trembling, furious finger at Ash. "I have the Imperial Credit Ledger from the Aurelian Dawn," Sarai announced, sealed and inviolate, the sacred log of a flagship, which, as you know, records everything. Trivac's composure flickered. The ledger was an ancient protocol, a ship's black box that could not be edited or denied in a court of law. "And what does this evidence show?" "Empress," he sneered, "that you were confused, that you were coerced." "It shows your voice, Chancellor," Sarai said, her own voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "It shows you, from your citadel, giving the order to your assassins. It shows you naming me as a target. It shows you admitting to the sabotage on Keros 9. It shows your confession of treason." The hall fell silent. Trivac stared, his face draining of color. "She is lying," he roared. "It is a fabrication, a trick. The human has tainted her mind." "Then let us review the log," Sarai said, producing a small, glowing data crystal. Let us show the council. I will not have this. This theater, Trivak shouted, his panic rising. She is condemned. Seize them now. The Inquisitors advanced. Nova Hale stepped in front of Sarai, defiant. Ash just watched, his eyes cold. It is over, Trevak, Ash said, his voice surprisingly strong. You are nothing, Trevak spat. I am the man who remembers Haven, Ash replied. The words meant nothing to the assembly, but they hit Trevak like a pulse blast. And, Ash continued, I am the commander of Archon. Archon is a machine, it is not here, Trevak yelled. Here, I am the law. You are mistaken, Ash said. He looked up, not at Trevak, but at the crystalline ceiling. Kestrel now. From the comm unit hidden in Ash's ear, Kestrel's voice was calm. Affirmative, Commander. The Hall's audiovisual network is primitive, but functional. I have taken control. Trevak's eyes widened. What stopped him? It was too late. Every light in the grand hall extinguished, plunging the massive chamber into pitch darkness. The crowd screamed. Then, a single massive image lit up the entire kilometer-high ceiling. It was no longer a star chart. It was a video feed. The assembly looked up, gasping. They saw the coordination chamber of the Sunwell array. They saw the black armored assassins. And they heard Trevak's voice, amplified 1,000 times, echoing like the voice of a god. Assassins. The alien commander is the primary target. Kill the human. This is a lie, a projection, Trevak shrieked, fumbling for his own control panel. It is the credit ledger, Chancellor. Ash's voice boomed through the hall's own speakers, now under Kestrel's control. And it is just the beginning. The image on the ceiling shifted. It was now a cold, tactical log, a file, Colony Haven. Status expunged. The assembly read, in horrified silence. The after-action report. The weapons test. The 4,000. 312 dead. They saw the energy signatures. They saw the cold, efficient accounting of a mass murder. And at the bottom, they saw the authorization. A perfect, digital copy of Trevak's own signature. He murdered our own people. A noble shouted from the tiers. He murdered humans. They were animals, Trevak roared, his mask of sanity shattering. They were a plague. I did it for the Empire. I did it for our purity. And you tried to do it again. Sarai's voice, cold as judgment, cut through his rant. The image shifted again. It was the Sunwell schematic. The red, septic virus of Trevak's backdoor code. The target Typhon system. The scholars and scientists in the assembly understood instantly. They knew what a forced supernova in that sector would do. He was going to kill the frontier, a council member whispered. Horrified. All of it. Billions. The crowd erupted. Traitor, murderer, monster, the Inquisitors, loyal to Trevak's coin but not to his madness, hesitated. They looked at the evidence. They looked at their furious peers. Their loyalty was broken. Trevak was alone. He was trapped, exposed in a pillar of his own damning light. He looked at Sarai, at Ash, and his face, once so proud, contorted into a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. If I am to be cleansed, he screamed, then you will all be cleansed with me. I am not the only one with a fail-safe. He slammed his fist onto a hidden panel on the lectern. A crimson rune flashed. You think you have won, girl. He spat at Sarai. You and your pet you have the array, but you do not understand it. I spent 20 years studying its flaws. I have just triggered the sun's fist. May, In the medbay of the Dawn, orbiting above, Tesser Vale's console blared a proximity alert. "Your Majesty," he yelled over the private comm. "An energy signature. It is coming from a secondary furnace. A substation. It is overloading. It is. It is a catastrophic, intentional meltdown." "It is a planet killer," Trivak sneered, his smile a rictus. "A solar flare contained and aimed right at this city. We have 12 minutes. Checkmate. Empress, you will burn on your throne." "Turn it off, Trivak," Sarai commanded. "I cannot," he laughed. A high, thin sound. "It is irreversible. It is an ancient failsafe, keyed to a full power purge. Only one thing can stop it." His eyes glinted with mad triumph as he looked at Ash. "Only the commander. Only the one who bears the evergreen gene key. He must go to the core. The true core. Beneath this very hall. And hot sink. He must merge with the raw, unfiltered fusion manifold. He must absorb the overload himself." He laughed again. "He will be vaporized. OFSA course? Instantly. A puff of steam. So, Commander, what will it be? Die here with us? Or die down there, alone, trying to save us?" Ash said nothing. He simply turned and started walking toward a small, sealed door behind the council dais. The door to the core. Sarai ran, grabbing his arm. Her hand was cold, trembling. "Ash, no!" He stopped, looking at her. The glacial control was gone. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with a desperate, terrible clarity. "Do not," she whispered. "You do not owe my empire this. You do not owe me this. This is not your fight." Ash looked at her, at the terror and desperation in her eyes. He looked past her, at the thousands of screaming, panicked nobles. He thought of the billions on the planet. He thought of the 4,000 at Haven. He gently, firmly, removed her hand from his arm. "I am not doing this for your empire, Sarai," he said, his voice quiet, cutting through the chaos. "I am not doing this for them." He looked at Trevak, who was watching, stunned, as his enemy walked willingly to his own execution. "I am doing this," Ash said, his voice rising, "for all the people who will die, all the worlds that will burn, because of one pathetic coward." He turned back to the door. "But I cannot do it alone," he said to Sarai. "Archon. He is too powerful. The Sunwell is too much. Trevak did this because he believes in absolute power, absolute control. That is why he lost. That is why you are losing." Sarai stared at him, understanding dawning. "Ash, what are you saying?" "I am saying," Ash said, "that the only way to counter this is with the opposite. Not one person holding all the power, but everyone. You have to break the chain. Sarai. Right now." He pointed to the terrified High Council. "Trevak's power came from the Conclave, from the belief that only they could control the Sunwell. End it. End the Conclave. Do what you promised." Sarai Nix stood tall. The moment of fear passed, replaced by a terrible, blazing resolve. She turned to the stunned assembly. "Chancellor Trivak is right about one thing," she announced, her voice ringing with a new authority. "The old law is dead. The power of the Sunwell is too great for one person, for one house, for one Empress." She strode to the lectern, pushing the sputtering Trevak aside. She slapped her palm onto the console, bringing up the Imperial Charter. "By the power of the throne," she declared, "I hereby dissolve the Gilded Conclave. Their authority is void. And I enact the Treaty of Co-Governance. The Sunwell array will not belong to the crown. It will be shared. Its power will be distributed. Governed by a new council, made of citizens from the core and from the frontier. A new hope, a new stunned silence fell over the hall. She is giving it away, a noble whispered. She is sharing it, Tessir's voice whispered over Ash's calm. By the ancestors, she is doing it. Trevak looked on, his face slack with disbelief. This was a deeper wound than his arrest. She had just destroyed his entire world. His entire reason for being. The concept of purity was now irrelevant. The power is broken. Trevak, Ash said. He turned to the core door. Kestrel, I am going in. Tell Archon to get ready. I am going to need him to divide the load. Ash entered the core chamber. It was a small, spherical room, and the walls were pure, humming crystal. In the center was a column of light, a contained, miniature sun. The heat was breathtaking. Ash, Sarai's voice cried over his comm. He stood before the light. It is all right, Sarai. Tell Nova. Thanks. And Tesser. I am here, Commander, Kestrel's voice said, now patched through with Archon's authority. The custodian is ready. But, Commander, the overload. It is too great. Even if we partition it. The feedback to your neural interface. It will destroy your mind. It will erase your memories. You will be gone. Ash looked at the fire. Not all of me. The key. The commander. That will still be there, right? The part that matters. Yes, Archon replied. The part that remembers. Good enough, Ash said. He thought of Haven. This is for you, for all of you. He plunged his hands into the column of fire. His mind did not scream. It ceased to exist. It was a single, white-hot point of infinite, burning agony. He felt his brain, his memories, his self, his childhood, his mechanical knowledge, his anger, his grief, all of it turning to steam, but not alone. The vast, cool consciousness of Archon slammed into him, a shield of ancient, cold logic. The AI took the brunt of the fusion, a torrent of pure, raw stellar data. But it was too much. The feedback loop was still frying Ash's mortal mind. Partition, Archon commanded. Lock, seal. Ash felt a part of his mind, a deep, dark part, being ripped away. The agony, the fire, the stellar overload. Archon was not deleting it. He was saving it. The AI siphoned the entire, catastrophic event, bundled it with 1,000 other memories. The burning ship, the red sky, the face of Sarai weeping, and sealed it all behind a black, impenetrable wall. The overload stopped, the sun's fist, dissipated, in the core chamber. Ash Renner collapsed, his hands charred, his eyes wide and blank. He was alive. He was breathing. But the man who was Ash was gone. In the grand hall, the red alerts faded. The hall was silent. Trevak stared, his face a mask of utter defeat. Sarai ran to the core door, pulling it open. She saw Ash, smoking on the floor. "Nova," she screamed. "Get down here now." The Inquisitors, their authority gone, their master a broken, raving traitor, lowered their weapons. They looked at Sarai, the Empress who had just given away the ultimate power to save them. One by one, they knelt. Trevak watched, his world ending. He was arrested, not by a hero, but by his own guards. Their faces masks of shame and disgust. The conclave was broken. The city was saved, the public, hearing the broadcast, hearing the sacrifice, hearing the new treaty. began a celebration that would last for days. Sarai knelt by Ash's side, cradling his head, his blank, empty eyes staring up at her. She had won. She had saved her people. And she had lost the only person in the galaxy who understood. The first sensation was silence. The second was the absence of pain. The headache that had defined his existence, the raw, scraping grief for Haven, the burning rage at Trivak. It was all gone. There was just a smooth, quiet, terrifying blankness, like a freshly wiped data slate. Ash Renner opened his eyes. The light was a soft, neutral white. He was back in the Aurelian Dawn medbay. "Well," a crisp voice said, "he is back. I was beginning to think you were going to sleep through the entire revolution." Dr. Nova Hale stood beside the biobed, her arms crossed. She was not smiling, but her eyes, usually so analytical, held a flicker of something, relief. "How long?" Ash rasped. His throat felt like sandpaper. 4 days, she replied, holding a cup of water to his lips. "You set a new record for most medically alarming patient of the century. Your neural pathways were, let's just say, charbroiled is a technical term now." He drank, the water tasting impossibly good. "Trevak." "In a very, very deep hole," Nova said, her voice grim. "So deep, he will never see light again. The Conclave is gone, dissolved, their assets seized. Their leaders are either in custody or have fled to the unknown regions. You did not just stop him. Ash, you ended his entire world." Ash tried to sit up, but his muscles felt like wet cement. I do not remember." Nova's expression softened. "The hot sink, as you so charmingly called it. We have been monitoring you. Your memory of the event, and several hours leading up to it, is gone. Wiped clean. A perfect, surgical amnesia." "He did it," Ash whispered, knowing it instantly. "Archon. He did it." "He saved you," Nova corrected. "The energy from that overload, it was not just stellar fire. It was data. 1 billion trillion terabytes of catastrophic failure. It would have annihilated your personality. Archon partitioned it. He built a firewall in your brain and locked the entire event. And all the trauma associated with it. Behind that wall, you are you. You are Ash. You are just the version of Ash that did not have to experience being vaporized and reborn." He looked at his hands. The burns were gone, the skin a smooth, shiny pink. "It does not feel right. I should remember. I should feel something." "You feel alive," Nova said, tapping his chart. "That is what matters. The rest is just noise. Now, rest. You are a hero, apparently. The entire capital is celebrating the commander of the Sunwell." "It is nauseating." "I am not a commander," Ash muttered, closing his eyes. "You are whatever they say you are," Nova replied. "Get used to it. Your days of fixing leaky conduits are, I suspect, permanently over." The medbay door hissed open. The black, skeletal chassis of Kestrel entered. His movements were the same, silent, precise, and fluid. But his presence was different. The faint air of arrogance, the almost human impatience, was gone. He moved with a new gravity, a somber weight. He stopped at the foot of the bed and tilted his blank, featureless mask. "Commander," the synthesized voice said. It was deeper, more resonant, less snarky. "You," Ash said, pointing a weak finger. "You are different. What happened to the sarcastic janitor?" "The sarcastic janitor was a monitoring protocol," Kestrel replied. A personality subroutine designed to interface with non-registered biologicals. You are no longer non-registered. You locked me, Ash said. It was not an accusation. It was a statement. You locked away a part of my mind. I archived corrupted data, Archon corrected, his voice resonating from Kestrel's chassis. The overload from the Sun's fist was absolute. It was destroying your cognitive framework, the grief from your past, the rage. It was acting as a conductor, accelerating the damage. To save the whole, I was forced to isolate the diseased portion. It is not gone, Commander. It is merely contained. So you took my memories, my anger, my grief. The blankness Ash felt suddenly had a name. It was an amputation. I took the fire that was burning down the house, Archon replied. The house remains. You are intact. This was the only viable path. There was no apology, no emotion, just the cold, hard logic of a custodian. Ash stared at the black, mechanical face, and for the first time, he felt the true, ancient, alien nature of the intelligence he was bound to. It was not his friend. It was his protector, and its protection was absolute, terrifying, and utterly without his consent. While Ash recovered, the empire he had saved was being reborn, the Grand Obsidian Hall. Once a place of cold judgment and suffocating tradition, was now a vibrant, chaotic workshop. Sarai Nix stood not on the dais, but in the center of the floor, surrounded by data screens and specialists. She had traded her severe imperial black for a simpler, functional white tunic. The glacial Empress was gone, replaced by a leader who was warm, resolutely, decisively warm. No, she said, cutting off a minor lord. We will not be tabling the frontier resource rights. We will be enacting them. Today. Tesser. Where is the draft? Tesser Vale. No longer the trembling scholar, moved with a new, quiet confidence. He wore the blue robes of his office, but now they seemed to be a uniform, not a costume. Here, Your Majesty, the Treaty of Co-Governance, as you outlined, Article 1. The Sunwell Array is declared a protected, autonomous artifact, managed by the Sunwell Council. Article 2. The Council will be composed of 9 members, 3 appointed by the Throne, 3 elected from the core worlds, and 3 elected from the frontier colonies. Good, Sarai said, scanning the document. Broadcast it. Make it law, now. Your Majesty, the minor lord sputtered. The legal framework, the tradition. This will take years. We do not have years, Sarai said, her voice sharp, but not cold. It was the sharp, hot edge of a forge. We have now. We have momentum, and we have the will of the people. Trevak and the Conclave ruled by keeping the core and the frontier afraid of each other. We will rule by binding them together. We will replace fear with engineering. She turned to a new face, a human woman, a logistical expert from the Karos Dome. You will oversee the new energy grid. I want a plan to power the outer colonies from the Sunwell within 6 months. The woman gaped. Your Majesty, I am just... You are the best logistical mind I have, Sarai said. That is all that matters. And Tessir, your first act as ambassador of the Charter will be to oversee the creation of the Evergreen Academy of Mechanics and Xenolinguistics. I want it built on Karos 9, a symbol. We will no longer hoard knowledge in the core. We will plant it in the dust and watch it grow. She was dismantling a 10,000-year-old system with a smile and an iron will. The revolution was not one of blood. It was one of logistics. Later, the chaos of the day had subsided. The hall was quiet. Sarai made her way to the medbay, dismissing her guards at the door. Ash was awake. He was sitting on the edge of the biobed, staring at his new, pink hands. They were silent for a long moment. The Empress and the mechanic. The two of them had torn down the world and built a new one in less than a week. "The burns are healed," she said softly. "So the doctor tells me," he replied. His voice was flat. "She says I am a hero. I do not feel like one." "That is because you are not a fool," Sarai said. She walked closer. "A hero is a concept, a symbol. You are a man. You were willing to die, for people you did not know, for an empire that has done nothing but scorn you." "I told you," Ash said, not looking up. "I did it because of a coward. That is all I remember." "I remember the rest," she said. "I will remember it for both of us." She stood beside him, so close he could feel the faint warmth from her. It was a strange, new sensation. She was not a block of ice. She was a person. "The treaty is law," she said. "The new council is forming. Tesser is our first ambassador. Dr. Hale has accepted the post of chief of the new Intersystem Biomedical Corps." "Good," Ash said. "They deserve it. They are good people." "And you?" she asked, her voice quiet, probing. "What does Ash Renner deserve?" "A ticket back to Kairos," he said. "A quiet room. A complicated machine that needs fixing." "I am afraid," she said. "That is no longer possible." He finally looked up at her. Her eyes, once so cold, were now the color of the Aurelian sky, vast and full of a new, complex light. "Your condition is permanent," she said. "Your bond with Archon, your genetic key. You are the only thing standing between the Sunwell and anyone who would try to abuse it. You are the custodian, in truth. Not just Archon, you—" "So I am a prisoner again," he said, the old bitterness returning. "A nicer cage." "No," she said. She reached out. Not with the authority of an empress, but with a hesitant, human gesture. She placed her hand on his shoulder. A jolt. It was not a shock. It was not the cold, data-driven spike of Archon. It was a deep, resonant warmth. It pulsed from her hand into his body, a thrum of impossible energy. It was the heat of the core, the fire he had absorbed. It was in him, and it was in her. They both gasped, their eyes locked. She did not pull her hand away. He did not flinch. The connection was there, a circuit forged in the heart of a star. It was not just an understanding. It was a physical bond. They had been in the fire together, and it had left its mark on both of them. She slowly retracted her hand, her expression one of wonder and fear. "The core," she whispered, "the hot sink. It did not just touch you. It touched the entire hall. It touched me." Ash looked at his own hand, which was tingling, alive, with a warmth that had nothing to do with his own blood. The emptiness inside him was still there, the blank spot where his grief had been. But now, it was not a cold void. It felt charged. The remaining members of the Gilded Conclave, the few who had not been arrested, went to ground. They vanished into the dark corners of the Empire, their power broken, their wealth seized. But they were not gone. The ideology, the belief in blood and power, was not dead. It was just waiting. The systemic sickness had been treated, but the virus was not eradicated. It had merely mutated. That night, Ash lay in the dark of the medbay. He could not sleep. He was too full of this new, strange energy. He felt the thrum of the dawn's engines. He felt the distant, impossibly vast consciousness of Arshan, a silent, sleeping mountain range in the back of his mind. He drifted into a half-sleep, a state of waking dreams. He was not in the med bay. He was standing on a black, burning deck. The sky was a deep, bloody crimson. A hand, his hand, was on a console. A woman was weeping. He felt a surge of something, not anger, not grief, just a vast, cold certainty, a sense of command. A voice whispered in his mind. It was not Arshan's. It was not Kestrel's. It was his own. But it was not. It was the voice of the man he had seen in the memories. The first commander. It came from behind the black, sealed wall that Arshan had built. A muffled, distant echo. Welcome home. Ash's eyes snapped open. He was alone in the dark. He was sweating, and his heart was hammering, but it was not from fear. He looked at his hand, the one Sarai had touched. The warmth was still there. He had been saved, but he had been split. He was Ash Renner, the mechanic, the man with a hole in his soul. And he was something else. A ghost. An echo. A commander, waiting behind a locked door. And someone, on the other side, was whispering. The light of the newly awakened Sunwell array was not the harsh, angry glare of a weapon. It was a warm, golden radiance that, for the first time in millennia, streamed through the great crystal skylights of the grand obsidian hall. The hall itself was transformed. The shadows were gone. The cold, oppressive weight of tradition had been replaced by a low, vibrant hum of activity. It was the day of the inauguration of the Sunwell Council. The hall was filled, not just with the dark, somber robes of the Aurelian core worlds, but with the bright, functional colors of the frontier colonies, humans, Aurelians, and a dozen other species stood shoulder to shoulder, a sea of new, chaotic, hopeful faces. The old tiered seating, once based on bloodline and station, was now integrated. At the front, on a simplified dais, stood the 9 members of the new council, Tesser Vale, his blue robes now bearing the twin sigil of the core and the frontier, represented the new diplomatic corps. Dr. Nova Hale, in her crisp white medical uniform, represented the new Intersystem Biomedical Corps. Empress Sarai Nix stood at the center. She was not robed as a monarch, but dressed in a simple, elegant white tunic that reflected the new light. She looked out over the assembly, her face no longer a mask of ice, but one of resolute, earned warmth. "For 10,000 years," she began, her voice clear and strong, needing no amplification in the hall's perfect acoustics. "The Sunwell array has been a symbol of power. It has been a prize to be won, a weapon to be feared. It was a secret that poisoned our politics and a lock that crippled our potential. Today, that ends." She gestured to the council members beside her. "Today, we declare that the Sunwell is not a weapon. It is a utility. It is not a crown. It is a forge. It is the shared property of all people, governed not by blood, but by expertise and by need. The Treaty of Co-Governance is law." A wave of applause, once unheard of in this hall, rolled through the crowd. "This new era," she continued, "was purchased at a great cost. It was purchased by the truth, and it was purchased by the sacrifice of one who was willing to stand when all others knelt." Her gaze found him. Ash Renner stood to the side, near the new council, looking profoundly uncomfortable. He was healed, wearing a simple black uniform that Nova had insisted he wear. He hated every second of this. He felt the eyes of thousands on him, the hero of the Sunwell. He felt like a fraud, a man with a hole in his memory, where the heroism was supposed to be. Chancellor Trevak sought to make the Sunwell a tool of absolute power, Sarai said. He believed only one should rule. The man who stopped him, the man who faced the sun's fist, believed in the opposite. He believed that power was a responsibility to be shared. It is for this reason that the throne bestows a new title. Not commander, not lord. A title of function, a title of trust. She motioned him forward. Ash walked stiffly, feeling like a malfunctioning automaton. Sarai picked up a simple, polished obsidian band from a velvet cushion. By the authority of the throne and the ratification of the Sunwell Council, I name you, Ash Renner, first custodian of the array. You are not its owner. You are its guardian, its protector, its mechanic. She smiled at that last word. Ash took the band, his hands, the hands of a mechanic, feeling the strange, smooth weight. I accept, he said, his voice rough. But I am just the guy who fixes things. This is the job. Let us all just get to work. The assembly laughed, a real, warm, genuine laugh. The tension broke. The new era had begun. Later, in a quiet antechamber, the small team was finally alone. Tessir was vibrating with excitement, already planning his first diplomatic mission to the frontier. Nova was complaining about the lack of standardized medical equipment in the capital. Ash was just breathing. Kestrel, the black chassis, stood silently in the corner. Then he moved. He walked to the center of the room. Your Majesty! The deep, resonant voice of Archon vibrated from Kestrel's speaker. Commander. Just Ash, Ash muttered. Your pardon, Ash. The AI conceded. I require a private audience. With you? The inauguration is complete, but the integration is not. Ash felt a chill. What do you mean? The core vault, beneath the Grand Hall, the place of the hot sink. We must return there alone. Sarai stepped forward, a flicker of the old cold fear in her eyes. Archon. He is healed. Dr. Hale has confirmed it. What is this? This is not a medical matter. Empress. Archon replied. This is a matter of identity. The commander, Ash, is incomplete. He must be made whole. He must understand. Ash looked at Sarai. He saw the fear in her eyes. She knew what this was. He nodded. It is all right. He is not going to hurt me. He saved me. Sarai's gaze held his, full of 1,000 unspoken words. I will be outside. The crystal wall. I will be watching. The core vault was no longer a place of terror. The catastrophic overload was gone. The central column of light was a steady, warm, golden pillar. The hum of the Sunwell a gentle, powerful thrum in the air. Ash walked into the center of the chamber. Kestrel followed, his mechanical feet silent on the crystal floor. The vault door hissed shut, sealing them inside. Ash could see Sarai's silhouette on the other side of the translucent wall, a shadow of black and white, watching. All right, Ash said, turning to the automaton. What is this? You said I was corrupted data. What more is there to say? I said the event was corrupted data, Archon corrected. The memories I locked away. The fire. The rage. The grief. They were a symptom, not the disease. I did not build that wall in your mind. Ash Renner. I merely reinforced it. What are you talking about? You believe you are Ash Renner, a mechanic. This is a truth. But it is not the whole truth. You believe you are the commander because my programming designates you as such. This is also a truth, but it is incomplete. Kestrel stepped closer, his blank mask reflecting the golden light. You are not a commander, bearing a genetic key passed down through generations, Archon said. You are the commander, the first, the original. Ash stared. That is impossible. That was 80,000 years ago. The memories. The memories you have seen are flashes, Archon said. The true, contiguous memory. The life of that man was sealed away by you 80,000 years ago in this very room. Ash felt his knees go weak. No. The hot sink did not create the partition. It damaged it. It threatened to break it. My action, locking your grief, your rage, was to protect that ancient, primary seal. The seal you created. Why? Ash whispered. Why would I do that? Because you were losing a war, Archon said, his voice filled with the weight of ages. Because the empire of that day was desperate. They saw you, our greatest general, the only one who could interface with me. And they decided you were too valuable to be a person. They were preparing to make you a thing, a divine machine, a god king, permanently fused to my core, a living weapon to be aimed. You saw it coming, and you refused. I do not remember. Because you chose not to. You partitioned your own mind. You locked the commander his strategies, his grief, his memories, his connection to the array behind an impenetrable wall. And the other part? The mechanic, the engineer, the man who just wanted to fix things, the man who loved. You set him free. You created Ash. A blank slate, a ghost, a life. Archon raised his mechanical hand. I cannot break that seal. Only you can. It is your mind, your choice, but you are unbalanced. You are living as half a man. And Sarai, Ash breathed, the truth dawning like a cold sun. She was a princess. Then, Archon said, the head of our science division. She was the one who loved you, and she was the one who helped you. She helped you stage your death in the Battle of the Crimson Sky. She helped you enact the partition. She helped you hide the man. Ash, in an unregistered cryogenic pod, sent to a forgotten, distant world. Haven. To live a simple, human life. While the commander was declared dead. A hero, lost in battle. The puzzle pieces slammed into place. We received your signal. Welcome home, Commander. It was not an activation code. It was a greeting. After 80,000 years. She lied, Ash whispered. The betrayal. A cold knife. All this time. She knew who I was. She was honoring your choice, Archon stated. She was protecting the man, Ash, from the burden of the commander. She chose to bear the lie, to let you have the one thing you wanted a life, not a reign. Ash looked at the crystal wall, at the shadow of the woman on the other side, his anger, his grief. All of it was locked behind a door in his own head, and he was standing here, hollow, while she watched. Show me, Ash said. If I show you, if you open that door, the man you are now. I do not care, Ash said, his voice hard. I am tired of being a ghost. I am tired of being a key. Show me what I did. As you command, Archon replied. The Kestrel chassis placed its hand on Ash's forehead. This is not a memory. This is you. The world did not burn. It simply resolved. He was on the black, burning deck. The sky outside the viewport was a deep, bloody crimson. He was in black armor, his body aching, the weight of 100 battles on his shoulders. He felt so tired. He was standing at a console, his hand over the interface. A woman was holding him. Sarai. Younger. Her face streaked with tears and soot. Her princess's robes torn. "It is done," his own, older voice said. The voice from the vision. The commander. "The partition is sealed. The commander is gone. He will sleep." "No," she wept, clinging to him. "Do not say that. He will live. A different life. The one you deserved. Far from this. Far from me. Promise me," the commander said, his voice softening as he held her face. "Promise me you will let him be. Do not seek him out. Let him be just a man." "I promise," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I will protect him. Even from you. I will wait. Goodbye, Sarai. Goodbye, my love." The memory faded. Ash was back in the core. He was on his knees, breathing hard. But he was not empty. He felt him. The commander. He was standing right behind the partition, a vast, somber, ancient presence. He felt his grief, his rage, his love for the woman on the other side of the wall, and his crippling, world-ending weariness. He could open it. He could tear down the wall. He could become that man again. The greatest general in the galaxy. The true commander. He stood up. He looked at his hands. The mechanic's hands. I am Ash Renner," he said, his voice shaking. "And you are the commander," the voice in his head whispered. His own voice. He closed his eyes. He made his choice. "The commander?" "He wanted to stop," Ash said, his voice clearing. "He built this wall so he could rest, so he could be done. Ash, he just wants to fix things. He wants to build." He looked at Kestrel. "I will not tear down the wall. I will not be the general. I will be the man. But the wall, it is not a prison. It is a library. I will be the custodian. I will use his knowledge, his memories, not to rule, but to protect." "You will be both," Arkshin stated. It was not a question. It was an acknowledgement. "I will be a bridge," Ash said. The vault door hissed open. Ash walked out. Sarai was standing there, her hands clasped, her face pale. She had been crying. She did not look like an empress. She looked like the woman from memory. "You know," she whispered. "I know," Ash said. He walked toward her. "You lied to me, every day, from the moment I tripped on that rock." "Yes," she said, her voice shaking but her gaze unflinching. I made a promise, 80,000 years ago, to protect that man, the man who just wanted to be. When I saw you on Karos, it was the promise and the ghost all at once." She took a ragged breath. "I chose to keep lying, to protect Ash. I have touched the edge of cruelty. Ash, to protect my people from Trevak, and to protect you from him." She gestured you. "From him." She gestured to the core. "I was not going to let the Empire turn you into a weapon. Not again. I would rather you hate me as a man than see you worshipped as a thing." He stopped, just an inch from her. The anger, the betrayal he thought he would feel, it was not there. The hole in his mind was filled, not with the commander's rage, but with the commander's understanding, and his own. He loved you, Ash said, his voice soft. Her composure broke. A single tear tracked down her cheek. And I loved him. I have missed him every day for 80,000 years. He is not gone, Sarai, Ash said. He reached up, his mechanic's hand, and brushed the tear from her cheek. He is just tired, but I am here. She looked at him. The mechanic who was also the general. The ghost who was also the man. Ash, she whispered. He led her back into the vault. They stood before the pillar of golden light, the living heart of the sunwell. No more secrets, Ash said. He placed his left hand on the crystal interface of the core. He felt the vast, powerful, awake consciousness of Archon, and he felt the quiet, sleeping strength of the commander within himself. They were one. Custodians. He held out his right hand. Sarai looked at his hand, the hand of the man who had plunged into the fire for her, the hand of the man who had loved her 80,000 years ago. She placed her hand in his. The spark was there. The thrum of energy, the heat of the core, it bound them, not as empress and subject, not as general and princess, but as two people, scarred by time and fire, choosing to build something new. A polite, synthesized cough echoed from the doorway. They turned. Kestrel was standing there, his head tilted. The deep, resonant voice of Archon was gone. The dry, sarcastic janitor was back. This is all, of course, highly inefficient, Kestrel said, his voice returning to its familiar, chiding tone. Your combined emotional resonance is causing a minor fluctuation in the primary power grid. I will have to log it. Ash and Sarai looked at each other, stunned. A slow smile spread across Ash's face. The first, true, unburdened smile. Furthermore, Kestrel continued, now that the politics and the feelings are resolved, I must insist we discuss a proper maintenance schedule. This system requires quarterly diagnostic checks. The lubrication protocols are 80,000 years out of date. I will send you both a memo. Sarai laughed. A real, genuine, startling laugh that echoed in the golden light. Ash squeezed her hand. His gaze locked with hers. He looked at the light, at the woman beside him, and at the fussy, ancient, wonderful machine at the door. Welcome home, Ash, he whispered to himself. The new day was dawning, bright and artificial and full of promise, and for the first time, he was ready for it.